Mr. Weatherbod on my phone says it's going to be windy today, and it isn't at the moment, but we're heading off into a woodland just in case it does, because we don't want Billy Windybottom to ruin our recording, do we? But at the moment it's beautiful and still, and at the side of a reservoir, and it's actually a water trickling into the reservoir there, and it's very still and very nice, quite cool, but very beautiful. Now, today, my mum has been deaf, almost stone deaf, for 70 years, 70 of her 96 years. And she went deaf when she was carrying me. She got some kind of illness when she was carrying me, and it completely destroyed her hearing. She's got about 1% in one ear and 0% in the other. In fact, she's got no mechanism for hearing in her left ear. And she's worn hearing aids more or less all her life. But they only help a little bit. But I've got used to it. I've got used to how I talk to her. I don't talk to her too loud. I don't talk to her too quietly. I try to face her when I do talk to her. But I never thought about it because I've lived with it all my life. But it's like I'm used to subtitles on the television. And I'm used to seeing her, she's lost her balance. She's never had good balance, so she bangs into... She looks drunk half of the time because she's no balance. She's worn a cochlear implant now for about 5 years. It helps a little bit, but not very much. She rings me up and then tells me that she can't hear me. She gets very irritable, and it gets very stressful for both of us. But I've lived with it, and I've never really thought about it. She once got knocked down by a bike, only about 5 years ago, by a push bike, by a cyclist. And she was bruised and battered. You know how old people just get covered in black bruises? And she was really, really upset. And the thing she was upset about, she stepped off the curb, she didn't see him. It was her fault, she will admit that. But she was frustrated and upset because he shouted at her and then got on his bike and cycled off. But when he shouted at her, she couldn't hear because he was just shouting, so she couldn't have any kind of... Well, she was on the floor anyway. They had to get the ambulance down. But she couldn't tell what he was saying. She just knew that he was angry, and she was upset about that. And people might say, well, she should have stayed in at her age. But you try telling somebody who's strong and proud and bright and intelligent and independent, you try telling somebody that you can't do that anymore. It doesn't work. It's demeaning. We who can hear just take it for granted, don't we? We go about our daily life. We hear hazards. We hear birdsong. We hear Christmas carols. We hear instructions and warnings and everything that goes with daily life. And we get the nuances that you don't get with subtitles. We hear streams, we hear waterfalls, we hear the wind in the trees, we hear music, one of the great joys in life, and we take it all for granted until it happens to us. We mix and intermingle with people on a daily basis who don't have that privilege. But we don't think about it, do we? And nor should we. Nobody expects us all to self-flagellate because we are the lucky ones who have all our senses. We accept that the world around us is built of sights and sounds and smells and feels, and if any one of those components goes, then the whole edifice is compromised. People without all the senses can lead successful, happy lives. Of course they can, but there is nothing quite like having all your senses. There's nothing quite like having all your senses working overtime. Just think about it as your mind makes instantaneous decisions subliminally every nanosecond as it reacts to senses, to stimulation coming through your eyes and your ears, keeping you out of danger, keeping you aware of what's coming, what's behind, what's next, what warnings. It's working overtime, all the time, all the time. Even when you're asleep, when you're awake and you're asleep, 24 hours a day. It's aware, your mind's aware, your hearing is there even when you're asleep. If you hear a noise during the night and you're asleep, you wake up because your ears are awake and aware that your alarm system. When you can't hear, you haven't got that. You adapt over time to that. You have to because you've got no choice. And you can adapt quite successfully, I think. I mean, I've got my hearing, I've got my sight, I've got all my senses. So really, I'm just on the outside giving an opinion. So I don't want to offend anybody. It's just how I see the situation. We are so lucky to have all our senses, and we take it all for granted. And we moan about other things. We moan about there's too much traffic. We moan about the taste of food. We moan about the price of food. We moan about how our shoes are a bit tight. We moan about, oh, I went out today and it was raining, it was hard and it spoiled my hair. We moan about things, whereas we should be going out and rejoicing. We should be going out and rejoicing in the rain, in the weather, rejoicing that our shoes are too tight because we're ambulant and we can walk about. We should rejoice that we have the chance, we have the opportunity to be offended, we have the opportunity to be uncomfortable. Because a lot of people don't. And have you noticed that most people who have any kind of disability are the stoic ones? They don't tend to complain as much, do they? Because they've learned to make the most of what you've got. So respect to everyone. People with sight loss, people with hearing loss, people with any kind of sensory loss are treated, hopefully, with respect, but they are othered in some respects. With the best will in the world, they are othered because they have to be treated with a certain amount of respect. You cannot see somebody with a white stick or a blind dog and just walk into them. You are the one who has to respect them. It's like when somebody's got... I went in a shop once with my mum many years ago, and the girl across the counter wouldn't raise her voice. My mum was saying, I'm deaf, I can't hear what you're saying. And she kept mumbling and mumbling. And I never said anything, but I was really angry and just thought, for goodness sake, just put yourself out for 1 second. Just speak up a little bit. Look her in the face so that she can see what you're saying instead of just looking down and mumbling. We are very lucky, those who have all our senses. And as you get older and you lose those senses, people say, you shouldn't do that. Well, if you've not got that, if you can't hear, stay in. If you can't see as well as you did, don't go there, don't go here, don't do this, don't do that. But you try telling that to someone who's led a long life being proud and ambulant and adventurous and articulate. You tell somebody who's spent all their life as an orator and then they lose the hearing, you tell them to keep quiet when they're struggling to be understood. We should really count ourselves lucky every second of every day. We've got all our senses, and we've got the senses to be here where I am, in this woodland, hearing the bird song, seeing every nuance and every colour of every tree and every shrub, looking over there at my little dog having a great time mooching about in the leaves, and she's loving it, and I can hear her little paws crunching on the leaves, and I know that when I go home I can edit this video and I will be able to hear it and see it and create something that I can then upload to the internet and be mocked by thousands of people across the world. And rightly so. We should be grateful for what we've got, but many of us aren't, are we? Oh, we are, but we also find things to criticise all the time. And criticism, a lot of the time, is kind of wasted energy, because you can criticise, but it doesn't necessarily change anything. It doesn't necessarily change anyone's opinion. All it does is give you a feeling that you're unloading. But that's human nature. And human nature will always be human nature, and there will always be deaf people, and there will always be blind people, and there will always be people in wheelchairs. And the rest of us should just count our bloody blessings. I do. Looking up at the sky now, there's blue coming into it. It's a cool day. Spring's coming. Another spring. I'm 71 this year. How lucky am I to be 71 and still be able to walk about in uneven ground, climb up and down things, even though I've got chronic heart failure and I've been knackered by cancer, but I can still get out here and wander up and down and explore and have a great life. That's what it's all about. Have a great life. But spare a little time in your day if you see someone else struggling. If you see someone struggling up some stairs with a couple of shopping bags because they're old and frail, carry the bags upstairs, help them across the road, get out of the way if they've got a white stick and you know that they're concentrating on finding the way through life. Don't be frustrated with somebody if they can't hear you and you have to take the effort to say it again a couple of times. Just be good, be nice. I woke up with this feeling this morning. I wasn't going to do, but I woke up. You know, yeah, sometimes you wake up and something pops into your mind. I must have seen something on television, I don't watch television, on YouTube. Or I must have read something, or I must have read a comment that triggered something. And I don't know, I can't remember. But obviously something did, and I'm glad it did, because I'm glad I did this. There you go, got it off my chest. We shall see you all on the flip. Peace and love.